Coming up here on the 23rd, Fozzy kicks off their tour at the Castle Theater. I got Chris Jericho with me right now. And I guess we got to start off with congratulating you because you got your own road up in your hometown of Winnipeg this week, man. So congratulations on that.
The street I grew up on is now called Chris Jericho Way. So who would have ever thought that? The same street that I used to hide under and smoke cigarettes so my mom couldn't see me is now Chris Jericho Way.
That's really cool. Well, at least you got a street. Dave Grohl, back in his hometown of Warren, Ohio, which is near where I grew up, got an alley, like a literal alley between two buildings. So you got a street, he got an alley.
I think the original plan was going to be an alley, but they don't do that in Manitoba, where I grew up. So I was going to be an alley, but now I'm a street. So it's just another of the many reasons why I beat Dave Grohl.
Well, you've had a great career all around with everything you've done. Do accolades still, feel the same or as important to you at this stage in your life?
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, that's all jokes aside, is probably one of the coolest honors that I've ever had in my life. I mean, being in a video game is cool, and having an action figure is great. Having a gold record is even a step higher in a lot of ways. But to have the street you grew up on named after you, I mean, how many streets are there in the world? I mean, let's say there's 100,000 streets. How many of them are named after somebody? It's pretty cool, man. And it's I don't take that sort of thing for granted. I don't laugh it off and go, hey, I got a street named after me. Who gives a, I do really take great pride in that. And like I said, that's something that's next level. So I guess the next step is just to change the name of Winnipeg to Jericho-ville. And we're pretty much at the top of the ladder.
There you go. I know you got your hands in so many things. We got you coming up next week to kick off the tour, but I think what it is tomorrow, you got a comic book that you're going to be debuting as well.
Yeah, I have it's actually a graphic novel that's also, we're going to do it as an NFT as well for the Painmaker, which is a character that I've played in Japan quite a few times and on AEW, I think 2 or 3 times. I just was thinking like, okay, so how many more Superman movies and Spider-Man movies can we see? Sooner or later, somebody's got to invent a new anti-hero. And I kind of thought, well, the Painmaker might have a good idea, a good chance to be something cool. So I took the idea and kind of expanded it to, intergalactic serial killer that's reformed himself. So now he travels the galaxy killing other serial killers, but he also still has the urge to kill innocent people at times. So he's kind of a flawed character as well. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how it all started. We did a couple NFTs for it that did really good. And I thought, well, let's take it to a graphic novel. And then the end game will be a movie, the Painmaker movie. And why not, right? Why not think that?
Well, I mean, you got the Hallmark movie coming up, so transition over to.
Oh, there you go. I mean, it's the natural progression between. I did a movie called Dark Match in December, where I played a satanic cult leader. My next movie is a Hallmark movie called Country Hearts, where I play Pa, and now the Painmaker will be next.
Hell of a transition there, right?
Yes.
Well, that's really cool. I look forward to reading it there and see where it goes. Is it going to be like a mini series, or is it going to be just a steady flow of books?
The thing is, doing it as a graphic novel and also as an NFT is we can kind of do it however we want. And if you are into NFTs, you understand that it's a giant community that's super receptive and super passionate for NFTs. And if you're not, you think, oh, whatever. And to me, I feel it's the same way as when I first got into podcasting in 2013, where everyone thought a podcast was just a stupid little thing. And here we are now with over a million podcasts in the world. I feel the same with NFTs over the next 5 or 10 years. The whole world is going to get into it. So there's a lot of different ways you can do a graphic novel via an NFT, and we're the first ones to do it. So I could make it an ongoing series for as long as I decide to do it. I can make it a shorter series. I can make it a chapter by chapter. So there's kind of all those different things that we're kind of figuring out and seeing how it goes, how it gets over, and we'll react accordingly.
Yeah, and you mentioned there that podcast, Talk is Jericho, 10 years now. I mean, back when you started this thing, did you ever believe that it would get to a 10-year mark and be as popular as it is?
I mean, I don't ever really sit down and think about that. Like, oh, wow, this would be great to do for 10 years. I just thought, well, this is something that I really enjoy doing, and let me see how it goes. Got some success with it, signed some great deals with it, and then suddenly created a whole kind of a niche fan base for myself, to where when all these other podcasts started popping up, Talk is Jericho was one of the first. And so I became kind of one of the pioneers of the field, for lack of a better term. And now, my show is still top, I think 150 in the entire world out of those millions. So I never really thought of doing it short term, long term. I just wanted to do it for as long as I thought it was fun, and it's still fun for me. And I still enjoy it, and it's still a success. So it's pretty cool to know that it's been almost 10 years. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's really cool. Did that actually change like your perspective in terms of being the interviewee versus the interviewer?
Oh, yeah.
I,
Yeah,
you
I
and
mean,
that,
I got into it, not to cut you off, but I got into podcasting knowing what it was like to get asked the same questions over and over again, and to have somebody, pull a list of questions out of their pocket and put it on the table, and
right.
so they're not paying attention to anything that I'm saying. They're just worried about the next question. I didn't want to ever do that. I didn't ever want to make it kind of a gossip show where you tell me your secrets. And I just wanted to have a conversation, just have a chat. And that's why to this day, 950 odd episodes in, whatever it is, I never prepare. I mean, if someone's got something that they're plugging, I'll kind of check out if it's an album or if it's a book, I'll read it or whatever. But I don't prepare with questions, because a real conversation doesn't go that way. If I meet you, in a bar somewhere, we just sit down and start chatting. I don't pull out a list of questions that says, "So Wes, tell me this." Like, you just kind of go with the flow and see what's going on. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I really enjoy the medium. And it's also one of the reasons why it's very, very hard, as to be a good interviewer. It's very hard to do.
No doubt there. Sometimes you have those great ones. Sometimes you have the really bad ones.
And either way, you got to get a show out of it, right? So if you have a really bad guest, you have to go and say, "All right, man, this is going to be hard, but I got to do it."
Right. Now, for you, just with the hard guest, I mean, you go through it, you get the bad ones. Difficulty wise, what would you say? I'm not even going to ask like the guests themselves, but for you, how difficult on a scale of 1 to 10 was your worst guest?
Well, I'll throw him out there. I'll throw him under the bus. I don't care. Mike Tyson, who's a friend of mine and I've known for, I don't know, almost 20 years, 15 years. I've worked with him half a dozen times. I don't think Mike showed up that day wanting to talk, or maybe he was just really stoned. I don't know. But it was like, "Mike, you understand, like, the idea of a podcast is you have to talk to me as well." And then the other one was George Lynch from Dawkin. We did a Sweet Lynch. Michael Sweet is a great friend of mine. Has a solo project with George Lynch, and brought George on. And George was the worst. Like, "Okay, Michael, what's your favorite Dawkins song?" "Well, I really like this and this." "George, what's your favorite Striper song?" I don't know any Striper songs." That's okay. Okay.
Right.
What's next? But like I said, what are you going to do, right? You got to get a show out of it. So with the Mike Tyson thing, I just talked for 45 minutes and let him listen to me. Like, what am I going to do, right? So,
Right.
but that's part of the challenge of being, a radio host, a podcast host, is you get what you give, and you give what you get. You got to make it work either way.
I think my worst was I had Hugo from Tantric on with me.
Yeah.
Tantric. He came in the interview. I want to say he just woke up, but came in the interview. It was 1-word answers. And I'm like, "Great.
Yeah.
I've got to fill 5 minutes with you. Thanks, bud. Appreciate
Yeah.
it."
I remember when I had my own radio show back on Sirius, right before Talk is Jericho, so probably 12 years ago. I remember having a guy from Tantric on wasn't Hugo, but it was another guy who was probably just as good. So must be something in the tantric water.
No doubt there. Well, I appreciate the fact that you're talkative and we're having a great conversation here.
Yes,
We
sir.
got you in town next week, man. Are you guys rehearsing at this stage, getting ready for the tour? Because we are the first date to launch.
Yeah, we're excited, man. And like we just did extensive rehearsals for the Jericho cruise, which was about 4 weeks ago now. So we got everything kind of worked out and figured out. We're ready to go, man. We're excited. All of these shows, or most of these shows, were postponed from, I think it was August or something along those lines. So the tickets are going great. A lot of the shows are sold out, and we're really excited to kick it off in Bloomington. It's going to be a blast, and we've got some new songs that we haven't done in years. We've got a new drummer named Grant Brooks, who, whenever you get a new drummer, you get a new engine, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, we can play, Spider in My Mouth," which we haven't played in 10 years, and all that sort of stuff. So we got new songs. We got some great killer kind of more album tracks in the set. I was just looking at it this morning, talking with Rich and PJ about it. So we're really, really stoked. And kicking it off in Bloomington is going to be awesome, man. And like I said, playing in a place that I think we've played Bloomington before. If we haven't, I know the sales are great. The crowd is going to be great. The set's going to be great. And the band's going to be great. What more do you need?
Well, yeah, we're looking forward to having you. The venues is a great place for you to play. And yeah, we were one of the rescheduled shows from back in
Right.
August. You know, you had that larynx issue thanks to the match you had in AEW. Were you scared at that point about being able to sing at all, or like you just knew it was going to be fine?
It was weird, yeah, because 30 years of being a wrestler, I'd never had that before, and it just got hit the wrong place at the wrong time, and it really did mess things up. So it was a real thing. And if I wasn't a singer, you probably wouldn't even notice it. But the first thing I noticed, like I've got no high range whatsoever. I've got nothing. And so you got to start back up. It just takes time, and you got to do all the drills and warming up and a lot of that sort of thing. And it took about 3 months to start getting it back. And I think now I'm probably at about 90%. Whereas I think when we went to the UK in November, I was probably about 40. But the show must go on, and you figure out different ways to sing the way that you can. We've got 3 other great singers in the band, and so we kind of relied more on background vocals with the guys, which was great. And then suddenly here it comes. You're 50%, you're 60%. Now I think on the Jericho cruise I was about 80, and this is about a month later I'm about 90. So we're really excited about it. I'm so happy to be able to sing again. And over the next couple of months I'll be back up to 100%. In the meantime, I figured out a way to get around those last few notes that are harder to get, and then we've got PJ and Rich that can back it up. So it's going to be great, man. I'm really excited and stoked, and yeah, I was worried, but now I feel a lot better, and it's a relief to know that it's coming back exactly the way that the doctors said that it would. But you never know for sure, right?
Absolutely, they have the idea, but things
Yeah,
could
you're
take.
hoping, because it's not like you break your arm, you put a cast on it, 4 to 6 weeks later it heals.
Mhm.
But this is different. It could take 4 weeks, it could take 4 months, it could take a year. And then also too, like if I was a baseball pitcher and I was throwing 100 miles an hour and I blew my shoulder out, the moment it heals, you're not throwing 100 again. You got to kind of start at 20 and 30 and work your way up to that speed. So it was kind of a similar analogy with the throat. And then actually, all the therapy that I saw, actually seeing what your throat looks like,
Cool.
which is weird. It looks like some kind of a strange Sarlacc creature from Star Wars. So I learned a lot, and I think at the end of the day, and it's what my voice coach and my laryngologist said, you're probably going to end up being a better singer as a result. So that's all good stuff.
That's awesome. And your vocal style has changed over the years too. Is that just by force of getting older, or just
No,
changing your
no,
style?
it's more of understanding more what your wheelhouse is, And I think probably all this changes. I probably sang a little bit higher before, unnecessarily. Like if you listen to the first couple of Fozzy records, just belting it out, and that's because you don't really know who you are as a singer. Now I know exactly what my wheelhouse is, and we write the songs, and Rich writes the melodies around that. So you have far more control over your voice when you basically know exactly who you are as a singer. It's the same thing when you listen to early Metallica records or early Iron Maiden records, early Avenged Sevenfold records.
Yeah.
All those guys, I mean, James's voice and Bruce's voice and Shadow's voices, they're all different from what they're singing now, because now they're true pros. They know exactly where to lock in. You listen to Metal Militia, it's like, oh my gosh, James sounds like he's in like a 80s, hair metal band or something with as high as is. It doesn't really fit his voice. But then he learns exactly how to harness it. And that's the same thing kind of that I've done over the years.
Well, good, man. I'm glad to see that you're back, and we'll have you in town. I want to ask because it was 17, and Judas is doing great. We spoke at that point. I think it was towards the end of the cycle of Judas, and you had said that that was, if I remember correctly, you called it Fozzy's Enter Sandman or Pour Some Sugar on Me at that point. Do you still believe that that's the case?
Well, I'm looking at the gold record on my wall right now for the Judas song for the Judas record. And I mean, that pretty much tells the tale, and what I meant by that is obviously Enter Sandman is, completely next level from Judas. But for our band, Judas is the song that opened the door. It's a song that still gets played in hockey arenas, football stadiums, soccer stadiums. It was on Cobra Kai this season. Went gold, still does 100,000 views a week on YouTube. So yeah, it really is the elusive hit song for us. I mean, became my ring music. I play it every week in AW, and the fans sing along with it as loud as they can. And even when I turned heel, we just considered taking it away. And it's like, we can't take Judas away from the fans. People love doing it. So it really has become our signature song. And if we never get another song as big as Judas, then I don't think there's anything to really complain about. And the fun challenge is trying to get another song as big as Judas. But like I said, I don't think Metallica will ever have another song as big as Sandman, or AC/DC will ever have another You Shook Me All Night Long. And that's okay. When you get one of them, you can hang your hat on it and build your entire career around it. And it makes your band a band where everyone knows, oh, I know that song, which is that's massive currency. Because there's 50 bands that I know of right now that are huge that don't have that song. You know, Greta Van Fleet doesn't have that song, and Dirty Honey doesn't have that song, and the Struts don't have that song. There might be bigger bands, but Fozzy has that tune that everybody kind of knows, and that's huge for us.
Yeah, and the AEW, the theme walking down. That first time you heard the crowd sing it back to you after the song cuts off, what was that like, just being able to go, oh, wait a minute, this is a thing now?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time that happened was on the Jericho cruise in 2020, right before lockdown. And it was an organic thing. And here I am walking to the ring for a cruise that I created for the company that I helped start, with a song that I sang, you know, and then everybody else started singing it. And then we went to lockdown and kind of had to, you know, work in front of no people for a while. And when crowds started coming back in, we were a little bit nervous, or like I was a little bit nervous. Are people going to still remember this? And the first night when we had, you know, 500 people in the show with the capacity that was allowed, and they started singing Judas, I was like, oh, thank goodness they remembered. And now, yeah, it has definitely become a thing. It's now to the point where other people's ring songs are being sung with. And I'm talking, you know, Jungle Boy or even Seth Rollins in WWE. That never happened before Judas. So it's almost like Judas was the pioneer of that. And now and the fans have so much fun singing that one, they want to sing other ones as well. And that's great, once again. But Judas was kind of one of the first for that.
That's really cool too. You know, we'll start wrapping here, but looking ahead for the rest of the year, what's going to be in the future for Chris Jericho?
Well, we got this tour over the next month, and then we're going out with Ugly Kid Joe in May and June, which is going to be great. We wanted to do something a little bit different, and they haven't toured the States in 25 years, and they have a huge fan base. So combine that with our fan base, it should be a great tour. And then there's always stuff going on. Obviously, AEW is going hard. You know, you mentioned the Hallmark movie that I'm filming. There's a couple of other movie things going on. You know, we always look at other tours for November, December. Jericho Cruise sold out already for January. So always lots of cool stuff going on in Jericho land.
Is there anything going on in terms of new music for Fozzy?
Yeah. You know, we released Boombox back almost a year ago now. And the thing, it's kind of a bad thing about a record is you put, you know, all this time and all this heart and soul into 12 songs. 3 of them are singles. All of them went top 10. 3 more of them we play live. They all go over great. And 6 of them just kind of disappear into the Fozzy song graveyard. And that bothers me because there's great songs there. So I think what we're going to do for a while is just release singles. And I think that's the model, the business model we want to do. Because I don't want these great songs like Omen or the Worst Is Yet to Come, Army of One, all of these great tunes that if you have Boombox, people go nuts for them, and they'll never be played, you know. So I think we're going to release another single probably in a month or two. Well, probably a little bit longer because we're still kind of getting the finishing touches on it, but it's awesome. And we're excited kind of to do that. Let's release a song every few months rather than 2 years in between a record that comes and goes very quickly.
Well, very cool. Last question here. I want to go back real quick because my family loves The Masked Singer. Anybody who knew the show or knows you like I do instantly, it was you. But being backstage, how hard was that to how difficult or security based was it to keep the identities from everybody of who's who?
Well, they're very serious about it. Like nobody knew who I was other than the handful of production people. Maybe 10 people knew who I was, and they keep you. It was actually one of the best shows ever because you didn't have to talk to anybody. It's like, you didn't have to stand around and have that uncomfortable silence. Like, hey, what's going on? And there's no makeup, there's no hair because you know what I mean. So you're sequestered the whole time. The moment you get out of the car, the limo that brings you there, you're wearing like a plastic kind of silver mask and a ninja outfit. And you walk straight to your trailer and someone comes to you. And when you go to rehearse, same thing, ninja outfit, put the thing on, the costume. So no one knows who you are. So it was actually a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. And it's something that I had turned down 2 or 3 times prior. When I finally did it, it was a blast. So really, really cool show. And it was a lot of fun. I thought I did great. It was actually funny. I was expecting to go a little bit further in it, and so were the producers. And when I didn't, I think everyone was surprised. And I was like, that's why you never let the fans decide. They don't know what's best ever.